name is Sean Jeffrey, and I'm Director of Pharmacy at Hartford Healthcare's Integrated Care Partners. I'm also a professor of pharmacy practice at the UConn School of Pharmacy. And today I'm joined by a good friend and colleague, Jan Kazakowicz, and we're here to talk about Haven, which is a professional assistance program for pharmacists. Actually, and that's why we're talking about it, because pharmacists aren't in this program yet. So after today, we're hoping to make sure that everybody's aware that this is pending legislation and give you some things that you can help to do to ensure that this legislation gets passed. So Jan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in Haven.
Well, thank you, Sean. Currently, I'm an independent healthcare consultant, but historically, I've been a director of pharmacy in several organizations within the state of Connecticut. I'm licensed in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and I'm very familiar with a program that Massachusetts has already on the books. I often asked myself why pharmacists weren't a part of that. Having said that, I really never did get an answer other than, well, the pharmacists never really wanted to be a part of this.
My understanding is that there's 33 other licensed professionals that are included in the current Haven program. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's any healthcare professional who is licensed through the Department of Health in Connecticut. Pharmacists are licensed through the Department of Consumer Protection.
Yes.
And in there lies the disparity.
So Jan, as I understand the program right now, it's a voluntary program and anybody can recommend the pharmacist for this program. Once they're in Haven, however, they have an opportunity to successfully complete it. And if they don't successfully complete it, though, then we revert back to a process that involves DCP. Could you explain that a little bit more? Because I want to make sure that we understand what this is providing in terms of an off-ramp to avoid any sort of effects on their licensure.
Okay, thanks, John. That's a very good question. I think there's two elements to this that are very important to understand within the legislature. Under the current BPH licensees, and this will tentatively be the same for the pharmacists, is there's mandatory reporting for an impaired healthcare provider. That's in the statutes for the Department of Health, and that will be carried over into the Department of Consumer Protection statutes. So anyone who knows, sees, works, lives with an impaired pharmacist would be required to report it. So
and that doesn't exist now, though, correct? That does
not exist
right
now, no.
Okay.
And the most important thing here is mandatory reporting isn't a punitive thing. Mandatory reporting is a mechanism for early intervention, right? Because you want to be able to intervene early in the process, particularly with substance use disorders, because that's where the largest amount of success is. The longer someone is in this disease state, the harder it is to overcome it, right? So early intervention, number one. Number two is that it is voluntary. You can voluntarily report yourself to it. It is confidential. And within that confidentiality, all of the records are confidential within the organization as well. So they have a medical review committee every month that meets and reviews each of the cases and makes recommendations regarding treatment. And all of those files are blinded. So the medical review committee doesn't even know the names of those participants. So it is anonymous, except to those professionals on site, a physician, an APRN with a psychiatric background, an certified addiction counselor, and the case managers that would be involved in their cases.
And what happens, though, if you're not successful in going through the Haven program?
Well, if you're not successful, then you would get reported back to your licensing agency, and they would make a determination as to what they would do based on the information.
And that's basically what we have right now, is you would be reported to your licensing agency. So this is the step before that licensing agency gets involved to give you a chance to clean up your act, to get yourself healthy, and to avoid having to go through the licensing process and potentially losing your license, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a mechanism for re-entry into the profession once you successfully complete the program. Once you get licensing agencies involved in your first step into recovery, it often does become punitive. And it also becomes stigmatizing in that people really shy away from any reporting to these public agencies. And where Haven really differs is that it's an anonymous, it can be an anonymous reporting. It can come from anyone. It could be a peer. It could be the individual themselves. It could be a family member. It could be a colleague, someone who recognizes a change in this healthcare professional. And it isn't only related to substance abuse, which our current system under the Department of Consumer Protection is predicated on. It also deals with mental health issues, as well as chronic disease issues that might fall prey to some of our healthcare pharmacy professionals, such as multiple sclerosis, where, for instance, people are having a hard time performing their jobs because of physical limitations. Haven can often help these healthcare professionals get back into their roles through assisting with redirection, as well as physical therapy, what have you, occupational therapy resources.
Yeah. So I think that's an important point to make sure that our pharmacy colleagues realize is that we are a little late to this party, partly because of the unique structure of pharmacy in Connecticut being licensed through the Department of Consumer Protection. And this is an opportunity this year because there's currently legislation that's pending. It's HB 5223, that's House Bill 5223, that would allow for pharmacists to be incorporated into Haven. Again, I think this is something that we want to be raising awareness to and make sure that as pharmacists, you are supporting this because this has been a big oversight. And right now, pharmacists are not included in this legislation or in this program. And the legislation, HB 5223, is aiming to include pharmacists. So we've already had public testimony before the General Law Committee, and we're optimistic that this is something that has a groundswell of support behind it. We'd encourage that if you are interested in supporting this, that you reach out to your state pharmacy association, whether it's the Connecticut Pharmacists Association or CSHP or ASCP or any of the other organizations that you might belong to, and encourage those organizations to continue their support. You can also do this individually by going to the Connecticut General Assembly website and submitting testimony, written testimony in support of this bill, HB 5223. Again, an important step for pharmacists. There's no disagreement within the profession that this is needed, and it's probably needed now more so than ever, looking at the challenges that many of our pharmacists are facing, the daily frustrations that they have, and the really, I think, difficult practice environments that some people are in that is contributing to perhaps chronic illness and maybe even depression or anxiety that they are experiencing, and they don't know where they can go to get help. Haven would be that source, would be an opportunity for them to get some additional help without going to their employer, without having this become something that ends up through Department of Consumer Protection. It might be more of a punitive process as opposed to this beneficial helping process. So thank you very much. And again, please support HB 5223.